Hey everybody, just want to welcome you to this week's edition of Family by Design. It's a pretty serious conversation that Liz and I have here. A lot of times we have some fun with what we're doing. This is a really serious thing, dealing with, the identity crisis that's in our nation, and talking about homosexuality, in particular transgenderism. And I just want to warn you, this conversation is PG plus. I would say it definitely probably is closer to PG-13, because we're just really blunt and honest about some things going on. So if you've got little ones, you may want to just listen to this without them, and then you will know how to have some conversations with them in the days to come concerning these issues. So be blessed as you listen. So this is one of those hot button topics that needs to be talked about. And we've probably covered some things about how to address some of these kind of things, right. But I just want to come out of the gate and say, when it comes to, because we're going to talk about transgender, homosexuality, just all the things involved in that. And the thing is, we talk about the law of first mention.
That's
and
right.
The law of first mention is this, that the first time somebody hears something is what they're going to build a philosophy, like their worldview on it, yeah. Their view on it. They're going to build it around that. Mm-hmm. So if the first time your kid hears that homosexuality is okay, they're going to have a natural tendency to believe that homosexuality is okay.
That's right.
So my point in saying that is that we're supposed to lead the way in this conversation.
That's right.
Not the world, not the school system, not the government. People
not
who put,
TV, not kids shows.
No, people who put their kids in public school and think that the public school system is going to do their kids justice in terms of what their kids are believing, you out of your mind, because there is so much demonic stuff happening that the enemy's working in that. And and we've talked about this too. Whatever you feel like the Lord's telling you to do with your kids, that's right. Between you and the Lord. We honor, we support that, we love you, we get that. Everybody feels different about it, but you just have to know what you're walking into. And there is, as a matter of fact, I watched the video and it was jaw dropping. This man goes into, and this is going to be PG plus, all right, just so everybody knows listening. This man goes into a school board meeting, and he takes one of the books that was in the school there. He takes one of those books and he begins to read the content to the school board, and the content had to do with, and I'm just going to say it like it is, it had to do with homosexuality, oral sex between homosexual couples, positions. I mean, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. And the school board stopped and said, "Sir, you need to stop reading that. Sir, you need to stop reading that." And he said, "Excuse me?" He said, "This is being taught and read to our children.
Right.
If you're too embarrassed to hear it, then it shouldn't be read to our children." People need to know this is the kind of crap, whatever you want to call that word, crap, Christian cussing or whatever, I don't care. It's crap that's happening. Our kids are being lied to about their identity, about what's right, about what's pure, about what's true, about what's acceptable. And we're having an identity crisis. An actual biological identity crisis. It's not biological, but it's in their mind about their biology, because they're not hearing the truth.
Well, and then there's this pressure too of you're weird or you're not normal if you don't believe that this is right or that this is.
Yeah.
I mean, our kids are faced at a very
it's a form of gaslighting.
Young age of saying, well, why can't I be homosexual? Or why isn't that fine? And you're wrong for telling me that I can't be whatever it is that I want to be whenever it is I want to be.
That's right.
And they're
this gets me fired up.
So not only are they being inundated or confronted with these things, but they're also being told that they're not right to believe and morality and truth, and that there is two genders, female and male, period. Yeah. You're not a cat, you're not a dog, you're not a boy, even when you have girl parts, okay? They're young. Children should not, and it's not even just in a school setting. This is in world. This is in TV. They're grooming our children on cartoons
Oh, yeah.
of saying, even in cartoons that don't have people but have animals, of saying like, I can be whatever it is that I want to be, and I dress like a girl even though I'm a boy. Though, like, if you don't think that this is a reality that we're facing as parents and our children are facing, then you need to wake up. And that is why we are doing this podcast right now, because we need to be, like you said, having the first mention and leading the conversation and being aware of what it is that our children, our world is being confronted with. Because if we are not the ones who are putting truth and the truth of the word, the real reality into them, the world is putting it into them.
Yeah.
It's faced everywhere. You could be walking down the street and you can see a man dressed as a woman, and your children can be like, what? And then a lot of times we want to just ignore it or brush it under the rug and act like it isn't a reality that we're facing, instead of talking about it.
And our kids, we need to be aware that our kids are they're being groomed, but they're being, and I believe this is the right definition of gaslighting, to where it's like they're made to believe that they're wrong for somebody else's actions. Kind of, I'm probably not giving the exact definition, but let me say it this way. I believe it is a form of gaslighting, but it's like I'm saying, if I'm, Sister Susie Q, not sister in school, but whatever, little girl, whatever, and I'm saying I'm a boy, and then you're there and you're saying, well, no, you're not, you're actually a girl, and then that child is making the one that's speaking the truth feel like they're an idiot, they're wrong, right, they're dumb, and they're unloving, and they're mean because they're not agreeing with their quote what they identify as. And that's what transgenderism is. I had to look up right before we started this what the actual definition of transgenderism is, but it's basically saying, like, if you're a male, you're saying, well, I identify as a female or some other gender, as if there's more than two. But it's a transgender is one who identifies as something else. And the reality is that someone can say, if they're really biologically a male, they can call themselves she, but they're still a male. It's real simple, and we should absolutely not feel bad about. If someone tells me, as a matter of fact, I know somebody that said they changed their name from a girl name because they're a girl to a boy name, and they said, you have to call me this. I refuse to call her that. I refuse. I'm not going to agree with that. There's some people might say that feels dishonoring. Well, I guess I have a line where it draws for me. I'm not calling a she a he just because she wants me to call her a he. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to call she or he, they or them.
Come on.
It's asinine. It's ridiculous.
The pronoun thing.
It's a demonic.
Yeah.
It's totally demonic. And, I apologize sometimes for my strong justice stance on stuff. I ain't apologizing for this. It is ignorance gone to seed. It's ridiculous. It's demonic. It's messed up. I am not a homophobe. I'm not I'm not an anti whatever kind of person they think they are just because I don't agree with them. But I am not going to stand up and say this is okay or this is normal. It's not okay. It's not normal. And it is not fine to mutilate children. Just because your boy, one time when I was a kid, I had this, we were close family friends, and my older sister, my only sister, and this family, she had her best friend, okay, in this family. And then we were the next ones down, and they also had a girl my age, okay? And one time, they dressed me up like Minnie and dressed her up like Mickey. And we pretended that we were the opposite. I was Minnie and she was Mickey, and we put on a little show. And then when their mom saw it, she goes, I do not like that. And we didn't understand why.
Right.
But for a moment there, I was acting like a girl mouse. And that nobody told me, if you feel like you're a girl mouse, you just might be one. No, I was just being stupid. I was just being a kid that didn't know any better. That was whatever. I wasn't having some weird feelings about being a girl. Now, there's people that have feelings like that because they got demons that are messing with them. It's demonic. Stop calling it anything else except for demonic. It is messed up. When something's that perverted, it has to be demonic. When it doesn't even make common sense, it has to be demonic. It does not make sense to go and chop off body parts. It doesn't make any sense.
They're making, and that's why we have to be so aware of this as parents, is that it's becoming common sense. They're trying to change our language and change our philosophies and change our views and
change our anatomy.
Yeah, and desensitizing not only us, but our children. If we are desensitized, then our children are going to be desensitized. If we're saying we're not going to talk about this, or we're going to be okay with it, or we're not going to speak up, then our children will also be that way. And I mean, not all the time, but most of the time, they're going to be like, it's fine. They can do whatever it is. Like, we think that if we're okay in our little bubble, that it's going to be fine, and that other people can do what it is that they want to do. And that is the problem that we're having right now, is because we stopped standing up as believers, as the body of Christ, and making a stand and having a position, and and talking about these things and standing up for righteousness and justice and saying, no, if we don't do that, then the people who are screaming the loudest, they're going to have the loudest voice, and they're beginning.
People on school boards all over need to be fighting this transgender crap. They need to be fighting it tooth and nail. I don't even know what tooth and nail means, but I just mean it. I know it means that they need to be hard at it, because it's if the next generation isn't saved, then what's coming is just going to be unbelievably out of control. And people need to fight. We need to fight in prayer, but we also need to fight on the school board. We need to fight in the courtroom. People need to fight this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy. It goes over into business. I heard a story recently about a man who had his man parts chopped off, and then they created the female part there, which is completely opposite. The male part goes out, the female part goes in. I told you all this was going to be PG+. And the man was complaining, I believe it was to his boss, that he was having, because he was now a woman, of course he was a man, but he was saying that he was a she, and that she was a woman, and was having cramps because she was PMSing.
Oh my.
It's true. This happened. And was having problems down there. It's like, okay, first of all, you're probably having problems down there because you had your parts cut off and you had a makeshift of other parts.
You don't have ovaries.
Listen, that was the thing. You don't even have ovaries. How can you have cramps from having a period when you don't have ovaries to have a period?
So this goes to show you
it's crazy.
The power of what your
it's
mind
crazy. Well,
will do.
I think it was probably a lie, but it was just crazy that someone would invent a scenario like that.
My mind is blowing.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. And so our whole point about this is that, and when you said, should we talk about this? At first I was thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't talk about that. Okay, so because I get pretty riled up.
Right. So let me help steer us into a particular direction. I
like this direction.
No.
Being vulnerable and honest and upfront and truthful.
We've told parents, wake up. Wake up. This is happening, whether you like that it's happening or not. Stop not being naive, and you have to find language. So, practically speaking, how do we help our children? What do we do? What are the conversations that we should have, that we shouldn't have? How do we know when to have them? Basically, we need to prepare our children as parents. How do we do that in this culture? Speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the law for suspension comes in.
Yeah.
So you need to not wait until your kid brings it up. You need to bring it up, especially if your kid's in public school. For us, we homeschool, It's a little bit easier for us.
Only a little bit, though.
A little bit because we allow our kids to have technology and all that stuff.
Right.
So it's a little bit easier for us. But you have to not let other people lead the conversation. You have to be the one to lead the conversation. And we talk about sex on this podcast. Mm-hmm. And we talk about that we're not supposed to be in shame about it because God created it.
Yeah.
Too many Christian parents are afraid to talk about stuff. You literally need to have conversations with your kids when they're at the right age and tell them, yeah, chopping off your penis and making a vagina is a wrong thing to do. Like, that's fine for them to hear that language from you. But parents are like, and the whole shame thing enters in even from a young age. It's like we say like, pee-pee and you woo-hoo and you doo-doo. And we introduce shame into the conversation of sex. Stop doing that. Call it what it is, call it the scientific name for it, and stop making the conversation weird between you and your kids, because your kids want to have conversations about this stuff, but if you're weird about it,
they won't have it with you.
Well, I have a different form of weird because I'll come into the kitchen and I'll be like, what's going on, baby? And all the boys are like, oh my gosh, Dad, stop, please stop. So I have a lot of fun with that. But and they don't want to hear me say things like, "Ooh, your mom's hot. She's looking good today." Like, they don't want to hear that, all right? But I have fun with that anyways. But what they do want and what they need, even if they don't want it, even if they're like, "I don't want to hear about this right now," they need for you, the parent, to talk to them about real stuff. They need for and you got to be on the side of truth too.
That's right.
You can't be so afraid of being unloving that you miss out on the truth. And there's a balance, because I've fallen on the other ditch where I would be the one like, those idiots, bunch of idiots, freaking idiots. Like that's me. That's me. That's how I writhe on the inside when I see the nastiness of the world. And so I've had to peel back and go a little bit and go, you know what? Those people are really hurt.
They're very broken.
They're very broken. And that is the truth. But I also will say, but what they're doing is demonic.
That's right. So you love the people, but
Absolutely.
not love the manifestation. And that your children need to know that what they're seeing outwardly is a manifestation of pain inwardly. So and Jesus, he pulled the person away from the sin, and he spoke to the man, remember, and not the sin. He told the man who they are, but then also was, what you're doing isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's love. So we can love the people and not love the sin. And I think it's very important that we differentiate that that the people are worth loving, but what they're doing is not right.
Right.
And so
people have a hard time doing that, though.
It is very
really
hard.
do.
It is very hard to do. It is very hard to do. And we need to be just, and we need to call wrong.
Yeah.
We need to say that. And it isn't wrong to call the wrong things wrong.
Here's a way to handle this, because this is something that has to be handled delicately. Mm-hmm. When I'm in my home, I would rather err on the side of my kids knowing the truth but thinking I'm being too hard. When I'm around other people, I would rather err, like out in the world.
Right. In
terms of conversation, I would rather err on the side of them knowing that I love them and care for them as human beings.
Right.
Because I do. I don't care how screwed up somebody is. Man, I love them. I'll pray for them and bless them, minister to them. I want to see them delivered.
Right.
So, but most of the time, people out in the world, they're not ready for Christians. They hate Christians.
Right.
They're not ready for Christians to come up and say, you're living in sin and you're totally wrong. They just need us to love them. They need the truth.
Right.
But they do need us to love them first. But when I'm in my home, and we were watching a show and a commercial came on, because now even
so
and
ridiculous.
we had these two, and I anyways, I won't say all the things that I said, but the next thing you know, it was like the commercial was like, oh, this looks a little bit, and the next thing it's like two guys making out.
It's too much.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, the whole room knew what I thought at that moment, and I said more than I probably should have. But my point is that my kids will never not know what I think and believe about stuff.
So they will always
They're
know.
never going to be confused. And you know what? There are some pastors and ministers that their churches don't know what they think. They don't know what they believe about these things. And your people deserve to know. They deserve to know. If you're wishy-washy and you would lean towards being a man.
A lover of all people.
No, it's not even just leftist, but it's a communistic, Marxist, socialistic, totally left-leaning, demonic entity that is, and it has an agenda in our country. If you lean towards that way as a minister, your people deserve to know about it. But if you are an upstanding, and yes, I think Democrats are basically democrats. They're demon rats. They're so full of the devil. I'll pull back when I'm doing a lot, like live on Sunday morning and Sunday night and stuff, because we're on YouTube and Facebook, and then we get censored. But I basically believe that you have people that believe it's okay to kill babies. They're the ones that are saying infanticide. There's infanticide bills like in California where they're saying it's okay to kill, people that, babies within 6 months of being born.
That's murder.
It is murder in God's eyes. It's demonic to the core. Yeah, I'm going to call them demon rats. Because that's where that's where they're from hell. Absolutely. And so
tell us how you really
I'm telling
feel.
you, this stuff gets me fired up. And you have preachers. Listen, you got, I won't say his name, a minister who I used to have respect for, have no respect for now, takes this nasty woman down in Georgia and brings her up on her platform and supports her. She openly supports abortion. She openly supports all the LGBTQ, RSTUV, alphabet people nonsense. She openly supports Black Lives Matter, which is, I'm all for supporting all people of all color, right? But I am not in support of a domestic terrorist organization funded by George Soros, which is exactly what that organization is. And you have this preacher that parades this woman up, this woman who I know her name, which I won't say, and I won't say the preacher's name, up on stage saying, I support her. Gag me with a spoon, fork, and a knife. It's garbage what's happening. Parents need to stand up. And let me tell you something, parents. If your preacher is not standing up and telling the truth about what he believes, you should be very scared to be in that church. We're not living in a time when we can afford to have preachers with no backbone. I'd rather be in a church of a preacher that believed a little bit wrong but was willing to tell the truth than to be in a church with the pastor who believed like I do maybe, but was unwilling to speak out about it. That's a pastor that has no backbone. He has no business leading people. And let me tell you something, parents. I know this is family by design, not preacher by design, but parents, you need to be the kind of parents that have a backbone.
That's right.
You don't need to be hard on people. I mean, I speak pretty rough about this stuff because I writhe on the inside. You got to love people. Man, people just need Jesus. They just need, if they saw how much God loved them, they wouldn't do the stuff that they're doing. They wouldn't live in the mental disorder that they're living in.
Right.
By the way, let's call it what it is. If somebody came, and there was a lady that just literally blinded herself because she said she identified as a blind person. And you know what they're saying? She has a mental disorder. And there are people that actually identify as amputees. And so they'll go in and say, I'd like for you to remove my arm or my leg. I really feel like I should not have that appendage. You know what they say? We're going to put you on medication because you ain't right in the head. But as soon as somebody comes in and says, I want to remove my body parts because I want to be the opposite sex or some different sex that doesn't even biologically is not in existence, is not even there, they say, oh, well, tell us more how you feel. We want to help you become who you believe you're supposed to be. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. It's
nonsense.
Demonic. Total nonsense. And at the root of it is a generation of people that are having an identity crisis.
Right.
And parents don't know the answer. And the problem is that the church as a whole doesn't really have the answer for it.
Right.
And the answer is you got to tell people the truth. You got to tell them what's true. God created two genders, male and female. There are no other genders. And if you think you are the other gender than what you actually were biologically born with, if you think you're the other gender or any other gender, you got a demon. You have a demon. You are demonized and you need to be set free. Because only a demon would make somebody want to go and mutilate themselves.
Right. That is true.
So,
There we have it.
Going back to, I don't really know if I answered your question very well. This stuff gets me fired up. I actually don't even listen to the talking points anymore. I don't listen to very many people talk about stuff. I just get enough information. I'm like, okay, yeah, our world has gotten crazier. Enough to go, I got to help my people. I got to help, obviously, my own family. But then our church, they got to know the truth about this stuff.
And parents, then I'll just say too, speak true identity to your children. Tell them who God has made them and
this
created.
Is the Liz answer right here. That's probably the best answer. It's the other side to this. The one side is they need to know that stuff's garbage, wrong, and demonic. And then speak into them.
So first off and foremost, you as a parent, you have to be secure in your identity. Yeah. So if you aren't secure in your identity, then you're not going to be able to speak securely.
Let me help them do that. If you can get somebody pregnant, you are a man. If you can get pregnant, you are a woman.
Yes, so I'm just saying.
If you sit down to pee, you're probably a woman. If you stand up to pee, you're probably a man.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No more interruptions. Please continue to pastor us and encourage
know
us.
who you are and who God says that you are. And if you don't know how to do that, just ask him and he will show you who you are. And then when you are secure and your identity, actually before you are secure in your identity, and as you're growing in security of your identity, also speak identity into your children. You're a child of God. You are a beautiful young lady. You are a handsome, strong man. You have, your mind is clear. You have the wisdom of the Lord on the inside of you.
Come on, this is the wisdom of God right here.
This is how we win this war, is we have to start declaring. Not just speaking. We have to declare identity, because when we are secure in our identity, then we can firmly know where our position is, stand there, and then declare identity to other people. And you see past the garbage. You see the person. You see who God designed them originally to be, and you can speak to that. And that is the thing that sets people free from all of this. So we need to be aware. No longer can we be naive. Right. No longer can we not think about talking about these things. We have to talk about them. We have to lead in them. We have to conversate with our kids. We have to leave the door open where they can come to us and ask questions.
And so what we're saying here, what you're saying here, is it's not just the truth about what's wrong, but it's the truth about what's right.
That's right.
It's like looking at your kids and getting what God says about them. So God doesn't just say, if they're a girl, that they're a girl, or if they're a boy, they're a boy. What does he say about their destiny? What does he say about the reason they're created, about, gifting that they have on them, and certain really great quality in their personality, and just things like that. Right. Call those things out of your children, because it speaks proper identity, but it also gives them a firm grip on just being okay with who they are. Because at the root of every person that feels the need that's confused about their identity. Right. Okay. And a lot of this is being played up because of what's going on. Like it's, you go from a certain percentage of people with identity problems to a much larger, because it's like, oh, well, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. But at the root of every person, even if they jump on the bandwagon, or if they're like genuinely having those problems on the inside, is that they're not really rooted and grounded as a person specifically in the Lord. And so when we are not really stable, like internally, and people deal with rejection, they deal with fear, they deal with all abuse. People have been in horrendous abusive situations that probably nobody here listening even knows, including us, know half the stuff that people have gone through. They have a lot to overcome. And so we have to begin to not just tell them what you're doing is wrong, because if they feel accepted in a group of community, because you look at the alphabet people, they accept everybody except for what's right. So what they do is they attract all of these totally broken people and say, you are good just like you are. So not only are they being accepted for being wrong, they're being affirmed for being wrong. And they go deeper into the dysfunction. And so they pull more people with them. The only hope is for people that know who they really are. Because everybody needs to feel secure.
That's right.
And the way that we feel secure is we have a strong identity.
That's right.
The way we have a strong identity is for people in your life to say, I'm going to tell you what God says about you. I'm going to tell you what God says about you. So with your children, if you don't want to see them be sucked into this, avoid rejecting your children. There's never a reason to reject your children. Discipline's not rejection.
Right.
And not disciplining them is a form of rejection.
Right.
That's another conversation for another time. But, don't reject your children, but then affirm your kids, what God says about them. You say, well, how do I know? You need to get on your face before God and ask them, because it's a serious matter.
It is.
You need to find out what God says about your kids.
And sometimes, we're so, as parents, just as individuals, we're so caught up in us not knowing our identity that we have a hard time getting on our face before the Lord and then speaking truth into our children. But push all selfishness aside and contend for your children.
Yeah. Speak
truth into them. And I believe then in the moments that you're seeking the Lord for them to speak truth into them, that you'll also affirm and reestablish things on the inside of you. Amen. And you'll get healthy as a family.
That's good.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. Share with your friends and on your socials. For more information about Ward Ministries, check out wardmen.org. If this podcast is encouraging you on your marriage and family, we want to hear about it. Email us at info@wardmen.org, and make sure you keep your eye out weekly for the latest podcast on marriage and family.